Hello, welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world.
Hello and welcome to the show. I am in New Zealand, so I'm interviewing some Kiwis whilst I'm in the Southern Hemisphere. So today I'm joined with Leah McKerrow. Leah is the Chief Executive of North Chamber and a global consultant with over 24 years experience building businesses from the ground up. She's an expert in leadership, a personality specialist, and believe it or not, she's done some stand-up comedy in Las Vegas.
Baby.
Leah spends her time helping organizations fix their workplace culture and navigating tricky challenges. Chamber, she acts as a voice for your local business community, making sure business owners have the support and the platform they need to succeed. Leah is here with me on the show. We're going to be talking about business as a game changer. Her goal is to help build better cultures and lead with high energy and fun. She's proof that you can get serious results while still having lots of fun along the way. And you're my type of lady, so I love it that we're here today. Awesome. So you've worked in banking, retail and government. Even though these industries are very different, what is the one thing every great leader must do well?
Yes. Well, it's an interesting story about when I joined banking because, of course, I didn't have any banking experience whatsoever. And I joined in the treasury area, which is the big finance money market space. And I thought an option was, should I have lunch today or not? And then they told me it was a money market derivative, as if that helped me. So I think one of the things for me is that to remember is you don't have to be the expert when you're the leader. You just need to know who are. So in actual fact, what that does is it empowers your people and it ensures that you use their talent, their knowledge well, rather than, and therefore you can focus on leadership.
That is such a good point because everybody thinks leaders should know everything. And actually, I think it's that showing that vulnerability element, isn't it? Actually, I don't know everything, but you do, and I'm going to empower you to tell me as the leader to make those decisions. I think that's an insanely good point.
I mean, you need to know the right questions to ask. That's the key thing. What is the question that you need to ask? And then who are the people that will know the answers?
Agreed. So as Chief Executive of North Chamber, which I came into the office, I've been working there this week, so it was cool. You see so many different businesses. What is the biggest mistake leaders make when they're trying to fix their company culture?
Yeah, and I think that word fix is probably the big challenge there. You know, we see it almost like a machine that we need to fix. And what we've got to realize is that company culture is made up of individuals, wireless units who come together. And so I don't think you can fix culture. You can change it. You can shape it. But in every culture, something works. So I think it's a matter of actually ensuring that you know what that good stuff is and look to build on that. And I think that many organizations defer to the HR department. Oh, the culture's bad. Can you do something about it? And they might put some nice posters on the wall or do something. But actually, culture comes from the behaviours that happen within the organisation. I always remember when I worked with an organisation and they were trying to fix their they wanted their people to be really friendly and welcoming. And yet, when they got into the lift with the senior executives and the CEO, they never said hello. They didn't smile. And so the challenge with trying to shape a new culture is that our people won't necessarily listen to what you say, but they'll definitely watch what you do.
Yeah, agreed. So culture is a really big thing in all organizations, right? There's like consultants that can come in and help with change culture, can't they? Like, how do you know, as a leader, how do you know you've got a bad culture if you don't know you've got a bad culture? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
How do you know what you don't know? Because nobody's going to tell you as the leader,
well,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
Oh no, it's lovely working here. It's not. Well, I think it is a matter of really being open and listening. I mean, you have to listen. I used to love going into organisations that I'd be working with and just sit in reception and watch how people walk through reception, watch how they talk to the reception people, watch how receptionists talk to people. And you'll start to get a bit of a feel for what happens around here. And so it is a matter of, I guess, trying to be as open as possible. And once again, going back to those people that you know and trust and asking the question, what's it like to work here? And that's why the proliferation of culture surveys and stuff like that are quite useful. But they're only useful if people are really going to tell you the truth. And so if you do a culture and you get the results back and say, look at this, 70% of people love working here, but you've only had a 25% response rate. What do the other percent feel like? It's a feeling. Culture is a feeling, I think, as much as anything, not a science.
So it's a people feeling then, really, isn't it?
Totally.
It's, as you said, it's managed by behaviours.
Yeah. And what is a bad culture as well? I'll give you a really interesting example. Have you ever shopped at Abercrombie and Fitch?
Yes, I know the brand. Right. Yeah.
Know the brand? Been into the store?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the feeling like when you go into that store?
It's a bit dark and dingy.
But there's lovely people hanging around, very nice, beautiful people looking very modern and very trendy, not very friendly. And so you could look at that and say, well, that's a bad culture. But that's the one they've curated because that's what their brand is about. And so a bad culture in one setting might not necessarily be bad in another. It's what they are curating to actually deliver often to their brand. And the Abercrombie and Fitch brand is very modern, very young. I had a nephew who was even employed there because he was a sort of a surfy type young dude.
Yeah.
And all he was asked for is stand in the corner and ignore people. Bad culture.
Wow. And that's amazing that people actually buy into that brand then and buy the products. If that's
it's not my demographic.
No. It wouldn't be, that's probably why I've never bought anything from there, if I'm totally honest, because I go in and I feel it's dark and dingy and not welcoming and kind of walk back out again. But no,
you're not their target market.
No, I can't imagine I would be. I'm too flamboyant for that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about change, because culture and change kind of link together.
They do.
Change can be really scary for a team. How do you help leaders keep their staff calm and focused when things are shifting?
Look, it is difficult. I mean, you know about the comfort zone, right? When we're in a comfort zone, everything feels easy. As soon as we get ambiguity and stuff, we get that bit of feeling of uncertainty. And that's the sort of thing that we think is scary. Is it fear or is it just uncertainty? And I think that's the thing that to remember. In times of change, we want that feeling, actually, because that's what spurs us to change. McKinsey many years ago did a study and found that 75% of change doesn't work, even after all this time. But when they looked at the ones that did, there were basically 4 things that were identified. And the first one was that the organisation's got the mindsets right. First, what is the mindset we need for this change? And that mindset might even be, let's be curious, let's be open, and let's embrace that uncertainty. That might be a mindset. The second thing they found with the organisations where it worked was that they engaged with everybody collaboratively throughout the change. It wasn't like one of those waterfall projects where everyone gets together and talks about what change they want, and then the project managers go away and say, well, come back when we've done it. It's not like that. You need to engage everybody throughout the process with all of the great things and all of the not so great things, but keep that communication open. The third thing that the successful change did was they focused as much on what was working and the successes as they did with the problems. You know what it's like going into a meeting. Everyone says, oh, that was a really good, guys. Right, now let's focus on these things that went wrong. Why did we miss that deadline? We don't dig down into, so why was that successful? How come that worked so well? And so those are the sort of things that we need to try and keep focusing on as well. And then the final thing they did was they built the capability of the people in the business as they went. So they didn't do it, we've got change coming up next year, guys. We're going to train you all this year so that you're ready. They tended to do it just before they needed that skill. Therefore, it was fresh. By actually actioning it, it meant that it was able to be put into place straight away, which meant that it was more likely to stick. So there are practices that leaders can do through a change process that will really encourage people to embrace that feeling of uncertainty.
I love that. So let's talk about, so you often say that business is a team game. How can leaders get people who usually work alone to start collaborating and help each other?
Yeah. The big C word, collaboration. Look, you can't just tell people to collaborate. You know, they walk out the room, go, okay, you need to collaborate. On what, right? They won't do it. They'll go, yes, boss. You need something for them to collaborate on, which is why when you think about often and you go into organisations and you ask them, when did we work and collaborate best? They will often give two things. First of all, if they're a big retail environment or maybe a distribution shed, they'll say at Christmas, when it's really hectic, everyone collaborates and jumps in and works together well. But we can't have Christmas every month. And the second time is during times of disaster and chaos. Somehow self-organising teams happen. Collaboration happens. Why? Because they've got something to collaborate over. It's very specific. And so in the day-to-day, when we are wanting people to collaborate more, we kind of need to actually nurture that. And what we've also got to understand is that people collaborate with people that they're connected with. So helping them be connected, making sure that if we've got a team of geographically distributed people, that they come together occasionally to connect, to get to know each other, to laugh together. And then they are more likely to think about that person when they need some help. So collaboration then becomes a habit, but we need the conditions for that habit to form.
Yeah, and that's building the relationships, isn't it? I
love
that.
Connection
Absolutely
first and then collaboration.
Absolutely love that. So when an organisation is in the middle of a big change, things can get like super messy. What is your best advice for a leader who feels stuck in that difficult middle stage? And I know a lot of our listeners, our information leaders, have that. So partake your knowledge to us.
Yeah. My perspective. It's because you mentioned before I'm an expert in leadership. There's no way I'm an expert. I feel I just have a perspective. Yeah, look, messy change. I love it.
The moves
Love it. I do. I love it. Why do I love it? My personality type actually embraces it. And that's the thing to remember, is that we all have a personality type and a preference. And some of us embrace change more easily than others. And so it is about understanding where and what those differences are, and then being able to lean into them and help them understand the change from their perspective. I also am a great follower of a framework called the Cynefin framework. Now, you'll need to write that down because it's a Welsh word. It's Cynefin. Because if I hadn't spelt it, you'd never have spelt it that way.
No, definitely would not.
Cynefin. As I said, it's Welsh. It's been made popular by a guy called Dave Snowden, and he talks about the world of ordered and unordered, and the world of complexity and change. And I think that a lot of change practitioners try to use a more complicated method of change, which is I use this process. I've used it before in these organizations and these teams, and so I'll just put that exact process into this space as well. And then I'll plan it to the nth degree, and then I'll implement it. People are not engines. We don't work like that. And so what needs to happen is when it's complex, and what I mean by that is when it involves human beings, you need to take a slightly different approach, because human beings react to stimulus. And when they see something that has worked, they are more likely to look at that and think, okay, I can do that. And so therefore, it's more of a practice of making a decision about how you want the change to go, trying it out, reflecting on it and seeing, has it worked or has it not? And then adjusting, and then go again, and then go again. And so it's almost like that learning cycle rather than a project. We have projectized change too much, and we need to pull it back and remember, bring the people, engage the people, and they will find the best way to get through the change, not you as the leader. Because if you as the leader is doing it, when you leave, when you fall over from exhaustion, the rubber band comes back. But if you let them lead it, they will take it far beyond what you ever expected it to do.
Agreed. And I always say change management is a process for people. Change management is a process for people.
It is.
So, and I love that. I love the way you talk about personality types. We've done a lot of personality types within the business, but also I'm encouraging our customers because they need to understand how to communicate with their organizations. So we've used
Absolutely.
the DISC framework.
Yep. Great.
Have you read the book Surrounded by Idiots?
Not yet.
My God, it's so good. I, as you know, love colour. So it puts all the DISC framework into colours. So red, yellow, blue and
Yeah.
green.
Yeah.
And then it talks about the situations for each of the colour personality types and the dominant personality types. And I've actually found that a really good way for information leaders to build relationships with their internal stakeholders, their leadership teams, and anybody they want to get buy-in, because they're actually communicating that way that they want to be
audience wants it.
communicated with.
Exactly.
The audience wants it. And, you've talked so much about change and culture, and I think they're all people-related processes. And I say it's a process, but it's, they're just people-related, isn't it? And that's one of the things. So
that's the gorgeous thing about it. It's a gorgeous thing because, all of your team can contribute to that change and then they own it. And then they're more likely to feel proud of it. And then they'll go again and get confidence from it. And I think that's one of the magic things about leading well is that you can actually shape and help people have better lives, enjoy change more.
And it's so rewarding when you see other people succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's not talk about mindsets because we're definitely growth mindsets. But on the other hand, you're known for high energy and your time doing stand-up comedy. Tell me about that to end the show today.
Well, yes, a comedy. I've facilitated a lot of workshops, etc., and I would often have the post-it notes at the end, all of the announcers. Oh, you're so funny. You made us laugh. Have you ever thought about doing stand-up? Which I hadn't. But then I got online and I started doing a couple of online workshops, and it got to the point where it said, right, now you've got to go and do it. And I stopped. I went, I couldn't do it. But a couple of years ago, I had to take some time out to find myself. And so I went and stayed with my girlfriend in Las Vegas. We'd been friends for years, and I took 2 months out, and I worked from over there. But I thought, you know what? Nobody knows me here. And so I went to the comedy clubs and I did my stand-up routine, which was very interesting in terms of the different sense of humour. I had a more corporate sense of humour. And of course, I had an accent, which most of them couldn't understand. But for me, laughter is the fastest way to resonance with others. And it lifts you up. It shifts your mindset. It makes life more enjoyable. It can break a moment that's a tense moment. And I think that when people walk out of a meeting or walk out of a workshop feeling better than when they walked in, I've succeeded.
Yeah, agree. And I'm very, very, very much aligned like that. Not done any stand-up comedy in Las Vegas.
You should. You should.
But do you know what? I probably would actually just give it a go. I like to give everything a go.
Yeah. It can either be a really long 3 minutes or a really short 3 minutes.
Yeah. But I just think like the element of fun, very much in our industry, we talk about information, we talk about data, we talk about privacy, and, it can be a dry topic. And I'm very much of the view that we need, as people, as information leaders, need to have a bit of fun and inject that fun into the training and all the amazing stuff that we do.
It lasts longer. Did you know that? So when people are learning and there's moments of laughter, that learning actually stays longer. Our brains actually love that because it pinpoints it. So I think it's vitally important, particularly when you're talking about such interesting stuff like that as data.
Yeah, agreed. And visual aids as well.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
The brain processes pictures quicker than it processes text. So
that's right.
If you use imagery, and it's Leadership for Data, we use imageries for all of our courses.
Exactly.
It helps once the trainer's given the content, that it helps with that memory recall. So
it does.
It's a really interesting fact because people are like, oh, I can't just put a picture up there. I've got to put a load of text and, get huge value out of it and stand there and read. And actually it's not. It's about thinking different, being authentic and trying to do something different that actually resonates. And a lot of the customers we've worked with, they've had huge success. But just picking up on your point about comfort zones, they were uncomfortable to change the way that they previously delivered training, but had great result as an outcome.
Yeah.
I think
And it's that thing that goes through your mind. You think, oh, what if it doesn't work? And I think you've got to listen to the other voice that says, but what if it does? So, it's that sort of yin yang, but it's really important. I used to work with a trainer who would use PowerPoint, and then occasionally he'd flick it over and there'd just be a puppy or a funny picture up there. Very random, but it would make people laugh. And then it'd take a segue and then move into something else,
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for your time. How can listeners reach out to you if they want to know more?
They can find me on LinkedIn, just Leah McKerrow. Really happy to connect with people. I'm deeply passionate about culture, change, leadership, and comedy. And as you can see, I'm not short of a few words, so I'm always happy to talk to people.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, and remember to be bold, be brave and be beautiful.